When it comes to the audience for the fix, it's definitely for sci-fi fans, especially those who like something that's a little bit more simple than something that's like overly complex. And add on that the production takes place outside of the United States or Europe, and is a dystopian world that doesn't focus on a soldier but a fairly average, albeit model, who's put into extraordinary circumstances while still having a bit of a coming of age vibe to it. And if that combination seems good to you, this could be the movie for you. So to summarize the fix, the world we're introduced to is not so much worried about climate change as much as it is the toxins and the lack of breathable air. In fact, we're told at the beginning of the movie about 68% of the world has a very toxic atmosphere or air quality to the point where masks, drugs are necessary to move about outside. And within a couple of years, if not a decade, it's going to be 83%. Now, some people like Dr. Eric O'Connor's are working on temporary fixes which allow you for a certain amount of time to be out in public without having a mask and everything, but unfortunately for most of the population, Dr. O'Connor's doesn't believe that this drug, even if government subsidize it, should be accessible to the poor, the needy, the working class, people who he doesn't think deserve to live. So basically, he's very much into eugenics. But while he feels that way, a gentleman who also happens to be in South Africa called Solomon, he is working on something that can go to the masses. And these two men find themselves on a collision course toward a young woman named Ella. Ella is at a point with her life where she is thankfully beautiful enough to be a model, and she even models for Dr. O'Connor's company, but she has some personal life drama. For between her boyfriend Tully, her best friend Gina, things are going on. The situation with her dad, that's not that great. Her mom has left a huge shadow in her life, and on the anniversary of her mom's death, she decides to take a drug that changes her life forever and makes it so that she becomes a key person in both the technological pursuits of Dr. O'Connor's and Solomon. So, getting to the review section, the top highlight for me is that when it comes to a lot of sci-fi productions, because of how the various big companies that Disney owns, Universal, etc., you kind of can easily put yourself stuck into that standard that indie or not, you need to hit that level. You need to hit that type of special effects. And everything that doesn't have the backing, it kind of has you walking in with a hesitation like, how bad is it going to be? But thankfully, when it comes to the fix, you don't see like major budget constraints or issues. Thankfully, most of the special effects are usually done through practical means, like they have prosthetics to show Ella's transformation or even the damage other people are experiencing thanks to the air quality. And then when it does have to get into the technology, like for example, at this point in human society, they have holograms for your phones and stuff like that. And yes, it doesn't give you like a perfect quality hologram, but you can kind of imagine in your head that the reason why it doesn't look perfect is because even if it's year 2036, 2040, 50, whatever, that doesn't mean that you still get a perfect signal no matter where you are between brick buildings, microwaves and all that. Something can interfere with it so that you get a bit of a grainy picture, but still a clear enough picture where you can hear somebody, you can see who's talking to you, and it kind of allows a sort of grittiness to it that allows you to forgive things not being polished and even enjoy the fact that things aren't overly polished. Which leads to the next highlight, and that's because that as somebody who is not really the heaviest sci-fi fan, I appreciate the fact that this story is a bit more accessible and even to a certain point believable. I mean, the air becoming so toxic that people have to wear masks, filters, and everything, that makes sense. Some corporation deciding to employ eugenics and focus mainly on the well-bred, wealthy stockholders and make sure that they get treated well while they kind of placate government agencies trying to protect the well-being of the working poor and lower class, only so that they can get their money for funding so that they can keep trying to work towards something better for the rich. It all seems like the type of stuff that could happen and perhaps will happen. Hopefully not, but you never know. But point is, when it comes to the dystopian part, things are accessible, make sense, clear. The sci-fi part of it, where people have to take this little pill to help them be able to breathe without a mask on, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But at the same time, they don't try to overly complicate it to make it make sense, which is okay. And then when it comes to Ella's situation, yes, not everybody's gonna like the whole boy drama stuff, or even her own coming of age story with her having to break out of her mother's shadow. But for me, it made it so that this didn't feel like something that was huge and required a huge amount of backstory and huge amount of lore. You could easily just watch it and enjoy this a little more than an hour and a half movie. But with that said, the on the fence topic for us is the fact that this movie does set up a sequel, and in some ways this movie feels incomplete because it does that, and it's an indie movie. And while Gravitas Ventures does release movies often, that's the distributor. When it comes to the production company, even though this does seem to have some type of support from the South African arts division of the government, that again doesn't guarantee it's going to get the sequel so they can complete the story. Never mind, who knows if this may be a greedy situation where it will try to go for a trilogy rather than set everything up in the beginning for Ella's story and then finish it off in the second movie. So not completing the movie in one set, but instead making it feel very much incomplete by setting up a sequel with a bit of a twist at the end. I have to admit I wasn't necessarily fond of that, but it is what it is. But overall, while the fake setup's a sequel that may never come, it does balance out the necessary elements of the sci-fi movie with enough human and dystopian world drama to be accessible, likable, and make you want, though not necessarily clamor, for the pitch sequel.